Okay, we're going to begin our presentation. This is the ISO 9001-2015 Preparing for a Successful Transition webinar. My name is Joseph Krolikowski and I am the Technical Director of Perry Johnson Registrars. Couple of technical notes. All participants are in mute mode. If you have questions, please utilize the question portion of the dashboard. We're definitely going to make time for all your questions at the conclusion of the presentation. Let's go over our topics for today. We're going to be discussing where the standards come from, why the standard is changing at this particular time. We're going to take a look at the timeline for transition, have an extended look at the key changes. We'll discuss what I'm sure is a key question for many of you, and that is the need to overhaul your system. We've got a FAQ section based on past presentations. I've got some final points, and then as mentioned, we will definitely make some time for your questions. Now, the ISO 9001 standard is a publication of the ISO, and that is the International Organization for Standardization. And the ISO it's an international collective. It's made up of numerous members. Each of the standards that it publishes, and there are many of them, each of those standards is assigned a technical committee. Technical Committee 176 is the committee that specifically was assigned to ISO 9001 many years ago, and TC 176 itself includes membership from each of the major industrialized nations. Now here in the United States, our members for TC 176 are drawn from the American National Standards Institute. Why are the standards changing? Why are these changes being brought to bear? The ISO recognizes that the needs of the industries that use ISO have evolved, and they're going to continue to evolve. These industries are changing. They recognize that ISO 9001 has to keep up with new industries and new ways of running businesses. Obviously, we want to see ISO 9001 utilized in more sectors, more industries. We want it to continue to be an attractive option for these different types of businesses. On this particular update, there's been a targeted effort to simplify the language that's been used in the standard. They want to try to help aid in the understanding of the standard and try to achieve some consistency between auditors and certification bodies. And it was recognized that there is also, for a lot of companies, a desire to improve the cross-compatibility between standards. There are a lot of companies out there, perhaps some of you are with us today, that have more than one certification. We have ISO 9001 and ISO 14001. Those are two standards that are typically grouped together. Some companies have even 3 or more standards that they pursue. Now, in the past, this has meant often that you have to have multiple sets of documentation. You have to have a procedures manual for ISO 9001 and a procedures manual for ISO 14001. With this new effort, this new revision, as you'll see, it's going to be possible for companies to very simply have a streamlined document, a single document that accomplishes all of the requirements of 2 or more standards, and that's being brought on by this new revision. Now, in terms of what the TC 176 is trying to accomplish with this latest revision, Nigel Croft, who is the TC 176 chairperson, he was recently asked, what are we seeking to accomplish with this new standard? And he emphasized 3 key aspects, 3 key features that the ISO 9001 standard should have. First of all, fostering a process approach. The process approach, of course, is well established at this point. We first saw it back when ISO 9001-2000 was published. The whole idea that we identify what our processes are, we manage our processes, the results-based aspect of the process, are we taking action based on the results, inputs leading to outputs, and so forth. The cycle of Plan, Do, Check, Act is also very much being promoted. It's a similar ideology, the whole idea that output matters, taking action based on the results of what you've checked, all of that feeding back into the planning cycle. The new idea, the one that's being brought to the table on this new revision, is risk-based thinking. And as we're going to see as we dig into the revisions to the standard, risk-based thinking is not such a new item. It's not such a new idea. This is something that we've been doing all along. It is just now more pronounced and more specifically called out within the standard. The timeline for the transition to the new standard, we are nearing the end of this process. We're going to start with dates that have come and gone. Going all the way back to June of 2013, we saw the publication of what was called the committee draft. That particular document had a very limited distribution. In May of 2014, we saw the publication of the Draft International Standard, or DIS. This document was used to create some of the early versions of this webinar. In July of 2015, we saw the publication of the final draft International Standard, or FDIS, and that is, of course, where we are at present. Now, it's a matter of weeks now, we're going to see the publication of the certifiable ISO 9001-2015 standard. It is weeks and not months now that are going to be timed out for this thing to be published. Then the clock starts ticking on the 3-year transition, and we're projecting that will come to bear in September of 2018, when all ISO 9001-2008 clients should have successfully transitioned to the new standard. So as I said, right now we are in the FDIS phase. The FDIS was published on schedule in early July. It is available for purchase, but we don't recommend that you purchase it because you would then have to also purchase the ISO 9001 document when that is published. As of right now, the work that they're doing is incorporating all comments from the voting members, those that approved and those handful that rejected the FDIS. They're making the final push right now to get the last of those comments in place so that the final published standard meets with everybody's satisfaction. Our analysis has concluded that the FDIS document does not represent a dramatic shift or change from the content that was present in the DIS 9001 document. You can think of this as kind of a tightening up of the standard, as Nigel puts it, a tidying up of the standard. A couple of key things for everyone to bear in mind. The transition timeline does not take hold. That 36-month time frame does not take hold until the final standard is published. If it is published on time in September, the September 2018 cutoff is going to mean that registrars like PJR, we're going to have to establish our own cutoff date for clients to perform their transition audit. Now, those particular provisions are being finalized at this time, and they're going to vary a bit from case to case depending on individual circumstances. Back in May, the PGR management team met to discuss the needed additional audit time to properly assess a quality management system transitioning from ISO 9001 to ISO 9001-2015. We concluded that for most companies, a small amount of additional audit time would be sufficient. Obviously, that's going to vary from case to case. So if you are presently certified through us to ISO 9001-2008, you will be advised on an individual basis what additional time, if any, is going to be required. Now, in terms of the key changes and understanding what the key changes are, we need to first discuss Annex SL. ISO 9001:2015 is going to be among the first of the standards to make use of Annex SL. Now you may have heard it called the high-level outline, Annex XL. Annex SL is part of a larger ISO publication called Directives Part 1, procedure specific to ISO. You can think of this document as kind of the standard on how to write standards. It's sort of a self-imposed set of requirements that the ISO follows. It is an item that can be viewed. I've provided the link here. It's not a document that you need to necessarily have any sort of familiarity with, but if you're curious what's in there and how Annex SL fits in with the rest of that document, it can be viewed at the link below. Annex SL, for its part, it was written back in 2012. It was written by a special committee, the Joint Technical Coordination Group. And what Annex SL is all about and what it seeks to accomplish, you can think of it as a 10-section blueprint for authoring all of the ISO family of standards. It promotes common terms, core definitions, and the ISO's plan is that all of the ISO standards, all of those standards are going to transition to the Annex SL structure. Now obviously the timelines are going to be varied depending on the standard, but we're projecting that this is going to be done by next year or 2017 at the latest. You will see all of these standards transition to an Annex SL structure. So what is that 10-section structure? The first 3 sections should look fairly familiar to you. Scope, normative reference, and terms and definitions. These are sections that are found in ISO 9001:2008. As before, these are non-auditable sections. They're here for informative purposes. We hit the first of our auditable content in Section 4. Section 4 is called Context of the Organization, and there are some familiar activities here, although some of this is new. We have the discussion of interested parties. We're going to be covering that a bit later. This is where we define our scope, define what our system is, what our processes are. All of that is found within Section 4. In Section 5, we have a new term, leadership. And the aspects of management are to be found here. There are definitely some familiar items here. We've got quality policy, we've got defining of responsibility and authority. That then segues into Section 6, planning. This is where the primary requirements for risk management are found. We're going to be going over those in just a bit. Quality objectives are also found here, as well as planning of changes. That then transitions into Section 7, which is called support, and it's within Section 7 that we talk about things like training, competency assurance. This is also the new placeholder for what's called documented information. The old control of documents and control of records clauses are to be found here. So if you think of Sections 4, 5, 6, and 7, these items taken together are foundational. These are the things that you put in place in order to be able to carry out a day-to-day activity within a quality system. Very, very similar to what was done in ISO 9001:2008 with sections 4, 5, and 6. Just kind of laying a foundation. The heart of the standard, and for those of you that have certified systems, the majority of the auditor's time is going to be spent in Section 8. Section 8 is called Operation, and the day-to-day activities, the typical day-to-day activities, they're all here. Requirements for products, this is our contractual discourse with a customer, designing products and services, control of production and service, releasing our products, controlling non-conforming outputs. The day-to-day activities are all here in Section 8, Operation, just as they were in Section 7, Product Realization in ISO 9001:2008. The standard then concludes with sections 9 and 10. These are called performance evaluation and improvement. And between these two, for the most part, we've got section 8 from ISO 9001-2008 covered. All of the familiar activities, internal audit, corrective action, continual improvement. You'll note that this is the new placeholder for management review, which makes perfect sense. This is where management review is best placed. So a lot of familiar content here, some new content, but that is the layout. Sections 4, 5, 6, and 7 being foundation, Section 8 being kind of day-to-day operations, and then 9 and 10 the monitoring and the measurement, the evaluation of your system. Let's take a deeper look now at some of the key changes to the standard and where some of the new content is going to be placed. Beginning with risk, and I'm sure for a lot of you there's great concern about how are we going to meet this risk requirement. How do we make this work? Well, first of all, the term risk is used 16 times in the auditable portion of the FDIS standard. And you can think of risk and risk management, risk-based thinking as Nigel calls it. They are viewing this as a system-wide strategy in much the same way that continual improvement was when ISO 9001-2000 was published. Now, they have emphasized many times over, and it's even been written into the appendix of the standard itself, they do not mean for you to have a formal, documented, complicated risk management process. That's not the intent of this requirement. They want you to integrate risk-based thinking into your processes, the processes that you already have. It's a discipline that affects all of the various areas of your quality system. Let's take a look at the actual verbiage for section 6.1. It starts off with the following. When planning for the system, you shall consider the issues that are discussed in 4.1 and the requirements in 4.2 and determine the risks and opportunities. Now you'll note the use of the term opportunities here. We're going to get back to that in just a second. Risks and opportunities that need to be addressed. First, to give assurance that the system can achieve its intended results, can enhance desirable effects, can prevent or reduce undesired effects, and can achieve improvement. This is not solely a planning for negative events type idea here. This is also looking at opportunities to improve what you're doing. There's a very deliberate and intended tie-in to improvement. There's a real obvious tie-in to what was formerly known as preventive action. Now in 6.1.2 it continues. You will plan then the actions to address those risks, address the opportunities. You'll plan how to integrate those actions into your existing processes, and you'll have a means to evaluate the effectiveness of those actions. The actions then that you take to address the risks and opportunities need to be proportionate to the potential impact on the conformity of your products and services. And that's always going to be pertinent to these types of activities. Is it going to have an impact on what we're doing in terms of products and services? So again, you know, the whole idea that this is something that's going to integrate into the processes you already have. So let's take a look at some items that you are already doing within ISO 9001-2008. There's a number of things you're already doing that are risk management in nature. Starting with management review, you're assessing your overall system, and hopefully you are targeting improvement efforts therein. Improvement is supposed to be an output of management review. Reviewing requirements related to the product, 7.2.2. You are already assessing customer expectations. You're already taking steps to resolve discrepancies when discrepancies exist. Training, 6.2.2. You're already assessing competency needs on a person-by-person basis, but also within departments and within new processes, new products. What are the competency needs? This is also risk management. And then most directly, preventive action, assessing the potential problems, taking actions to avoid those problems in the first place, maintaining records, and so forth. It's our conclusion that for the average company, risk management is not going to be an item that's going to be terribly difficult or require aggressive revision to your system to accomplish. And these are some examples of how we've reached that conclusion. Some other changes that are being brought out by the new standard. The terms procedures, records, and documents. All of those terms have been eliminated, and they've been replaced with the ubiquitous term documented information. Now, the logic here, as we understand it, is the standard is trying to be more inclusive. They want to accept alternative approaches to how you control a process, how you maintain records, what constitutes document control. There's a lot of new processes that can be brought to bear to accomplish those requirements. So they wanted the terminology within the standard to be a bit more broad. All references to the term product have been replaced with products and services. Now that's already been the case for many years now. If you read Clause 3 of ISO 9001-2008, it states, wherever the term product appears, it can also mean service. They're just pushing it into the body of the standard itself. This has always been a standard that was intended to be applied to companies of all sorts, those with and those without a tangible product. Management responsibility, that term has become leadership. It's pushing the concept that management needs to lead by example and involvement, rather than simply directing that activities are performed. Continual improvement has evolved. It's part of a larger section now called improvement. And the idea here is that continual improvement, while important, is not the only aspect of improvement. We can have improvement through breakthroughs, through reactive changes, through reorganizations, and so forth. The standard wants people to take a larger view of what constitutes improvement and not limit it to solely continual improvement. Suppliers are now referred to as external providers, and again this is intended to accommodate service organizations. Now the new annex that's been provided in the FDIS provides some clarification on what's meant by external providers. In addition to outside companies, they mean for this to also apply to associate companies and outsourcing as well. So it's a broad term, and it's intended to accommodate any of the conceivable types of organizations that a company might reach out to in the process of fulfilling customer requirements and running their quality system. They have eliminated some required content. ISO 9001-2015, as you may have heard, is not going to specifically require a quality manual, any procedures, or any work instructions. Now, for the majority of companies, the impact of this requirement is going to be minimal. And let me explain what I mean by that. If you have a set of documents that you use every day, and they absolutely match up with what you're doing, there is value to your company in having the quality manual, in having the procedures, and so forth. The standard is not saying throw those things away. What the standard is looking at is where a company has a quality manual that it only uses on audit day, where a company has a procedure that is used twice a year for audits. That may not be something that you necessarily have to effectively run your quality system and to effectively run your processes. Now, Within the practice of the audit itself, if a company chooses not to have a procedure, the auditors are still going to have to verify that all of the requirements of the standard are being met and that what you have presented us is consistent and effective in terms of the process. Now, if you can do that without a procedure, that's absolutely acceptable. I will add that if you choose to have a procedure, bear in mind that if you have a procedure, it is still something that can be audited. It still constitutes audit criteria. So that's some of the criteria, some of the things that you want to weigh in terms of deciding, do we need our procedures, do we need our quality manual? ISO 9001:2015 does not have any reference to a management representative. That title has been removed. Now, what this means is if the organization chooses to have a key person to arrange audits and be a key contact for corrective action, etc., that's fine, but the management of the quality system should not be solely one person's responsibility. It is the responsibility of leadership. The leadership team needs to take charge of the quality system. Now, for a lot of companies, this is already the in-practice arrangement. They already have a team that runs the system. That's the ideal arrangement that ISO and TC 176 wants to see in place. They have removed verbiage pertaining to permissible exclusions. Now, what they've replaced it with is this provision in Section 4 where you can claim an item as non-applicable. What it means in practice is we're going to be verifying the validity of those designations at each audit, which is technically what's supposed to happen for exclusions anyhow. However, the big difference on this particular writing of the standard is that it's not just one section that a non-applicable can be claimed from. They've opened it up to be inclusive of the entire standard. Now, how that's going to work in terms of claiming non-applicability for things outside of areas like design, which is obviously a very common item that's excluded or exempted, that will remain to be seen. But the interpretation as of right now is that any portion of the standard can be claimed as non-applicable if there is a justified reasoning behind it. They've introduced, as I mentioned, a new term called interested parties. And let's take a look at the definition for that term. A person or organization that can affect, be affected by, or perceive themselves to be affected by a decision or activity. And then they go on to give some examples. They talk about customers, owners, people within the organization, suppliers, and then some really far-flung examples, bankers, unions, etc. Now, in Clause 4.2, it says the organization needs to determine who the interested parties are. But it emphasizes the interested parties that are relevant to the quality system. Now, the intention here is that if, as an organization, it's up to you to make sure that you've considered all relevant inputs to the decisions that you've made. The term really is there to broaden the scope of who those requirements might come from. But for the average company in practice, this is really not going to be terribly different from what you're already doing. It's just good business to make sure that you're cognizant of applicable requirements, whether those are coming from customers or whether those are coming from places other than customers. Let's have a look at some new questions now on a section-by-section basis, and we'll kind of show you how the new standard is raising some of these questions. In Section 4, we talk about now, again, the aspect of who are the interested parties. Do we have any applicable, any items that can be claimed as non-applicable? What's the purpose of the organization? In Section 5, we have some new questions that are raised. Do we have a leadership structure? Has leadership made itself accountable for the effectiveness of the system? Is leadership ensuring that the policy and the objectives are consistent with the strategic direction of the company? Has the quality system been integrated into business processes? Are those things on a shared path? Now, that doesn't mean that we're going to be looking at your financial records, but the intent here is that the financial decisions that are made by the organization should not be at cross purposes with the quality decisions and the quality system activities. Planning, Section 6, of course, this is where we have our risk management requirement. Have the risks been considered? Have we taken action for the risks and opportunities? With quality objectives, there are some new things that are now required. Assigning of responsibility, establishment of a target date. What is it we're trying to accomplish with this objective? In Section 7, there is really only one slightly new area of content. It's in Section 716, where it asks, have you considered the changing needs and trends against your current competency base and determine what's needed for the future? Again, that's kind of risk-based thinking in nature. Beyond that, there's really no significant new content that we haven't seen already. And that's as we go through the rest of the standard. That's true for Section 8, and that's also true for Section 9. As I mentioned earlier, Section 9 is the new placeholder for Section 5.6, management review, and then finally Section 10. So as the standard concludes, again, the majority of new content is going to be found in Sections 4, 5, and 6. And then once we hit Section 7, really a lot of it is things that we've seen before. So hopefully you're starting to feel comfortable that the actual changes to the standard are minimal, manageable. There's not a whole lot of new content here. Even risk in and of itself is not so new if you consider the fact that we've been working with preventive action since ISO 9001 was first published. The whole concept of risk-based thinking has been around for a long time. It just wasn't named in so many words. Now, what I'd like to do over the next several slides here, the FDIS 9001 standard, as it's been written, is going to be, when ISO 9001:2015 is published, the actual structure and content, it's our conclusion that there's going to be almost no distinguishable difference from the FDIS standard. This gives us some assurance that we can take a look at the cover-to-cover of the FDIS and feel confident that we're looking at the final standard and have an understanding of how it's going to be laid out. So we'll begin in the section 0.1, the introduction, where an overview statement is provided, intentions on who the standard benefits, an introduction to risk-based thinking and Plan, Do, Check, Act, and then some interesting definitions for some key terms that are used, three of which are getting their first official definitions in the context of a standard. First of all, we have shall, the very familiar term shall, which indicates a mandatory requirement. Interestingly, we have a definition for the term should, which is identified as a recommendation. Now, the term should is actually not used anywhere within the auditable content. Now, whether that's going to change between the FDIS and the ISO 9001 will remain to be seen. And then we've got two other terms, may, which indicates a permission. That actually appears once in the auditable content, and then can, possibility or capability, numerous instances in that particular term. In section 0.2, we find the 7 quality management principles, of which there were formerly 8. They are all listed here. Section 0.3 reinforces the importance of the Plan, Do, Check, Act cycle to process approach. It also provides an improved Plan, Do, Check, Act graphic, and it encompasses the clauses of the standard. In section 0.3.3, we have further discussion of risk-based thinking. It's defined and it's explained in terms of its importance. And then section 0.4 provides a linkage to ISO 9000 and ISO 9004, the fundamentals, vocabulary, and then guidelines for improvement document. In section 1, we have the scope of ISO 9001, the general verbiage on who ISO 9001 applies to. Section 2, we have a normative reference. Interestingly, it mentions ISO 9000 2015 for all official terms and definitions. We have taken that as assurance that the ISO 9000 document, the fundamentals and vocabulary, that document will be published at the same time as the ISO 9001 document. We still don't have a real clear picture on when ISO 9004 is going to be published, but we have assurance we feel that we'll see ISO 9000 yet this year. In section 3, we have a placeholder for terms and definitions, but it's without content. Now, it's possible that that's going to be used as a future placeholder for some ISO 9001 specific definitions, but at the present time, it is a section without content. We've already reviewed sections 4 through 10. Let's have a look at the 2 annexes now. I think for many of you on the call, I think you're going to find Annex A to be a particularly helpful portion of the standard. There's a lot of key information here, and there's also some interpretations here that can be brought to bear in a dispute. You know, if the auditor is saying one thing and your feeling is that it's something else, this is a document that a section rather that I feel is going to be very helpful in kind of clearing up some of those disagreements. In section A1, structure and terminology, it indicates that if you want to have your own system of numbering, your own terminology within your manuals, within your procedures and so forth, that's absolutely fine. You do not have to align your documents to match ISO 9001 2015. You don't have to use the terms. This is your system. These are your processes. In section A.2, we have products and services. It kind of provides a more full explanation on why they've expanded all the references of product to read products and services. In section A.3, we have a more full explanation of what is intended by interested parties and what that term means and how that works. In A4, we have risk-based thinking. And again, it's a more extensive section that's intended to help you understand the concept, and again emphasizes right in the standard itself, a formal structure or process for risk management is not required. Section A, Annex A rather, continues with Clause A5, applicability. Talks a little bit about the logic for removing exclusions and the new concept of non-applicables. A6 talks about documented information and provides some clarification on that term. In A7, it talks about organizational knowledge, and it expands on what's required for competency and ongoing competency. A8 gives a description of externally provided products and what that phrase means and who it may potentially apply to. Annex B provides some further details on the relationship between ISO 9001 and many other publications, 9004, 10001, and so forth. And the standard concludes with a bibliography and a listing of support documents. Now, for many of you, and I hope I've already addressed this question in some part, many of you are asking yourselves, do you have to overhaul your system? And we have concluded that the answer to that question is a resounding no. You absolutely do not have to overhaul your system. TC 176 has indicated many times they want the standard to be inclusive. Now, if you tell 1,000,000 worldwide registered firms that they have to overhaul their system, that's not inclusive. That's inconsistent with being inclusive. So that means, as I've mentioned earlier, if it works, keep it. If your quality manual fits what you do, if you use it on a periodic basis, absolutely keep it. If your procedures are effective at defining what your processes are, defining how your processes operate, absolutely keep those procedures. If your quality policy is well known, if your objectives are known, if they're adding value to your system, keep those things as well. Let's take a look now at some FAQs from past presentations. We've got some information that was raised by some questions that came up. Will our staff have to complete transition training? Now, depending on the extent of the revisions that you make to your system, that's going to inform the extent of the training. But in general, yes, you will need to provide some form of transition training to your staff. Now, at a minimum, our expectation would be that this training would consist of awareness training and assessing the new standard's impact on your various processes and personnel. It is entirely conceivable that the majority of your staff are going to feel no effect whatsoever from your company's transition to ISO 9001:2015. The people that are out in the production area working CNC machines and injection mold machines and so forth, for those parties the change is going to be almost no change whatsoever. The majority of these changes are going to be felt by the members of management, the folks that have more of an active role in managing the system. Now, how about the internal auditors? Will they have to complete transitional training? Well, the answer here is maybe. And the reason we say maybe is, remember that internal auditing is a competency no different than any other competency within your system. It is up to you as the organization, as the owners of your system, to decide how extensive the transition training for your internal auditors needs to be. Now, it is definitely conceivable that if you've got a seasoned team of auditors that have been working with your system for many years, they could potentially do a period of self-study and very easily transition to auditing ISO 9001:2015. Now, as has always been the case, we're going to look at auditor competency by way of the effectiveness of your process. So it will be up to you to decide how extensive the transition training for your auditors will need to be. We've had a lot of questions about the other standards, in particular AS 9100 and TS 16949. We know that each of those standards and also TL 9000, all of them have indicated that they're going to transition, they're going to continue their alignment with ISO 9001. We don't have a lot of firm information in terms of publication dates. We know that all three are targeting 2016. We also know that ISO 13485, that committee, has opted not to continue their alignment with ISO 9001. They are working on their own version of a new standard, and they are targeting early 2016 for publication. Now, probably the hardest question for some of you on the call, should we get certified now or wait? There's a lot of companies out there that are at various stages of implementing their quality system. And they're wondering, well, should we go for it with ISO 9001:2008? Should we put some time into transitioning and go to ISO 9001:2015? Not an easy decision to make, but there's a few things you need to bear in mind. First of all, bear in mind that ISO 9001:2008 still has, as of this moment, at least 3 years of usability left in it. It's also important for you to bear in mind that The first few audits later this year to ISO 2015, they're going to be difficult. They're going to be difficult for us and for you. Now, as time goes by, the auditors will get more comfortable with auditing that new standard. You'll have a smoother transition. So if you absolutely must be certified within the next several months, my recommendation is to pursue certification to ISO 9001-2008 and tell yourself that you will go through the transition at the end of the 3-year period. In terms of steps that you can take now, there are a set of steps that have been published by the IAF in informative document number 9, and that's actually an item that you can download if you're so inclined. Just look up IAF ID 9. They have a 7-step process that they recommend you follow, starting with a review of the actual standard itself to identify any gaps that you feel need to be addressed, writing up an implementation plan, assigning responsibilities therein, updating your documents, if applicable, to reflect any new or revised processes, taking care of any awareness and transition training, doing a full system internal audit followed by a management review meeting, and ensuring that corrective action for all internal audit findings are in process or complete. And then the final step, of course, bringing in your certification body to help plan your formal transition arrangements. I do want to make a final point on document transition and kind of re-emphasize that you really want to think in terms of, does the documentation work for me? These are your documents. We come in a couple times a year and use them. You use them every day, and therefore you need to make sure that these documents work for you. Now, if this means that you renumber them so that they align with the standard, if that makes it work better for you, that's absolutely fine. Now, obviously, if the documents reference ISO 9001-2008 clauses by name and number, those types of references will likely have to be updated. But very important for you to bear in mind, make sure these things work for you and for you first. Obviously, our expectation is that you will work with your auditor to help provide the expert analyses. For many of you, you have auditors that have been coming to see you for many years. They know your system. They are going to be a valuable resource for you in your transition process. We feel this is an exciting time for quality system certification. We feel that ISO 9001-2015 is going to be a beneficial update to the standard. We will definitely be providing timely updates on this transition process. We want to help all of our clients to have as smooth a transition as possible. Couple of things for you, resources. We do have a report, a side-by-side comparison between ISO 9001-2008 and the FDIS standard. That's available on our website right at the home page. And we've also prepared an FAQ report with key questions and answers, including the FAQs that we were looking at earlier. And that is also available right on our home page. It's linked in there. We would also encourage you to use our homepage as a way to keep in touch. You can opt in for automatic updates. If you go to the bottom of our main homepage, there is a space for you to enter your email and click subscribe. We will update you on changes to the standard and new webinars and all kinds of other helpful information. So we love to be in direct contact with our clients. We definitely want to keep you informed. I want to thank everybody for your time today and attention. I do hope you have found the presentation to be helpful. I'm going to go ahead and open the question dashboard here and see what kind of questions we've got today. Glad to help. Okay. We have a question from earlier from Jim Schneider regarding TS 16949 and AS 9100. Jim, I do believe we've answered that question. They are both going to be aligned. The timelines are being worked on as we speak. We have some questions about availability on the slides. We're definitely going to make these available for download just as soon as possible once the presentation has been uploaded. Okay, Samantha Berg asks, are we required to do whatever the may and can ask of us within the standard? Bear in mind with those terms, the only term that indicates a mandatory requirement is shall. May refers to a kind of a choice, a decision, and can refers to similar, similar kind of thinking. So I think that the intent here is that the standard is going to provide you with the requirement through the word shall. I would pay most attention to the term shall in planning out your implementation activities. Okay. Okay, we have a question here from Rick Lovelace. I have taken lead auditor training for ISO 9001-2008. We are implementing ISO 9001-2015 for the first time. What should I do if I do not understand what the standard is asking for and have no budget left for hiring a consultant? Rick, I know for a fact that there are a lot of free resources through the ISO.org website, through our website here at pgr.com. For answering questions. Bear in mind that both ISO 9001-2008 and ISO 9001-2015 are process-based standards, and what matters is implementing your system, your processes, and if there's some aspect of the standard that has not been fulfilled, that will be borne out in the audit process. You should not feel duty-bound to hire a consultant per se. That's certainly helpful for some folks, but it's not in any way necessary or mandatory. Okay, we have a question from Carmen Santillan, I believe I'm pronouncing that right. It says, can we continue to use literature or marketing materials after we have been certified to the 2015 standard, although they reference the 2008 revision? Carmen, I believe that those materials would have to be updated. I can share with you that it is considered acceptable to reference an ISO 9001 certification on its own, at least through PJR. That is permitted on our Pro 3 procedure. That would be a question that you could direct to your scheduler or to your auditor if you need further details. Victor Alguin asks, will ISO 9000, 2005, and ISO 9004, 2009 be updated also? Yes, we've confirmed that ISO 9000 is going to see publication this year in 2015. We've been told that 9004 is going to be updated. We don't have a firm time frame we don't have a firm time frame on when that's going to be published. Okay, question from Holly Heffenstein. Why would an audit be difficult in the beginning for auditor and auditee if the transition is minimal? Well, Holly, the reason that I'm saying that is remember, it's a new standard. It's new verbiage, and as auditors, we have to get comfortable working with it just as much as you, the auditees, do. So I don't believe that those two statements are at cross purposes. Yes, it's still the same system, and for the average company, the changes to the system are going to be minimal, but it's a new standard. It is a new standard, and it's a new way of looking at the existing requirements. So I don't think that if you're seeking to transition now in 2015 or early 2016, it's not that it can't be done, but it's my interpretation, it's PGR's interpretation, that it will be that much smoother further down the road once we've had some chance to work with it. Okay, we have a clarification from Bud Salisbury pertaining to some advice. He's mentioning that there is on ASQ's website, the American Society for Quality, there is a website, asktheexperts.com. I would definitely just pass that along as something of value to those of you that are seeking to get some advice on implementing your system. We have kind of a lengthy question here from Nelson Lyles. I'm going to try to break this down here. Nelson is inquiring about the use of an approved supplier list. Sticking pointer in the audit with auditors asking, how do you know who is approved to purchase from? We are a small company. We have 3 large captive suppliers with whom we purchase the majority of our materials. I have a feeling the new standard will lean even less towards possessing an actual list of providers. In terms of what is specifically required therein, Nelson, I will share with you that the new standard does have requirements for documented information as it pertains to external providers. I'm going to try to pull up the actual requirement here, the way that it's been worded. It is in there. It is going to be dependent somewhat on the requirement. The standard does say that you will maintain documented information as it pertains to who your approved external providers are and the evaluation activities therein. Now, whether that's accomplished by a list of some sort or something else of that nature, I do think the requirement is still there. I think that, excuse me, I do think that that's still going to apply. But again, I would prefer for that to be worked out with the individual auditor on site. Victor Alguin asks, ISO 9001-2005 is not requesting mandatory procedures. What about mandatory or suggested processes? Interesting question. Victor, the process has always been that as an organization, you need to identify what your system is, what your processes are. However, the standard does have provisions within it that state you need to identify, you need to ensure that all the requirements of the standard have been fulfilled by the processes that you've established, by the system that you have created. So there's no mandatory or suggested processes per se, but I would emphasize to you, make sure that the system you put in place meets all of the applicable requirements. That's the way to ensure that you have gotten all of this covered. Okay. I'm seeing a request for clarification from Ms. Holly Heffenstein. Holly, I'm going to request on that particular question that you reach out to your scheduler or to me directly. We'll work with you directly on that offline. Any further questions? Okay, I'll wish all of you a very good day, and thank you for your participation in the webinar. Have a good one.